ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Thursday, February 27th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We got a full night for you tonight as the Thundering Herd getting set for a doubleheader tomorrow on the basketball court, and we're going to hear more about that tonight. Steve Cotton will have Inside Marshall basketball. That's coming up at 7:05. Different night, of course, with the schedule being what it is. Herd having to play on Tuesday, the Thundering Herd, of course, now playing on Friday on the men's side. The women played last night, now play on Friday as well. And so we'll hear from Coach Jackson. We'll hear from Coach Folks. That's coming up tonight, 7:05, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930, and on 93.7 The Dog as well. But we got a lot to get into today, so we'll do that. Let's get that text line going. And again, let me give you that number one more time because I've got my last 4-pack of tickets to give away. They're in my desk drawer right now, my last 4-pack. And you can win those. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's the number to be a part of the show. So last 4-pack, Herd taking on Appalachian State. We got that game coming up tomorrow. Going to be a late one. 8 o'clock's our airtime. 9 o'clock's going to be tip time for that one from the Henderson Center. Before that, the women are going to be in action tomorrow as well, taking on Georgia State. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the Herd taking on an App State team, which it beat last week, 69-59. That was a good game for Dzane Mingo. Had 25 points in that. Nate Martin had 15 points. Jalen Spear had 16 points. So good effort from those three. Now, can Marshall do it again? Can Marshall get the win over App State? I think it's going to be tough. The game was close in that first half. App took a 1-point lead into the locker room, and then Marshall came out in the second half and pulled away, outscored App State 38-27. So I felt good about the Herd's chances in this one, and I feel good about the Herd's chances again. But Marshall's got to get this one done because of the fact that with the win, Marshall's got an opportunity here to maybe work its way into the top 4. What could happen here is Marshall's 11-6 right now. Troy's at 12-5. South Alabama's Troy. And Arkansas State all at 12-5. James Madison 13-4. It's locked in as the number 1 seed. No change there. James Madison's also 1-5. Arkansas State's 1-2. South Alabama 1-1. That's the streak. Marshall has the second best streak going right now, a 3-game win streak, and then Troy's on a 2-game win streak. So one of those streaks will have to end tomorrow. So James Madison, we know it's a lock. Taking on Texas State. Not worried there if I'm James Madison. So I feel good about that game. Even if James Madison decides to rest its starters, which I don't think it'll do. And then you have Arkansas State. That's the one we're eyeballing. Arkansas State will face off against ULM. Now, what's the chance that Arkansas State loses to ULM? I don't feel good about that. So I think James Madison and Arkansas State win. And then, of course, I don't think it matters about South Alabama and Troy because with South Alabama, you look at the head-to-head, and South Alabama got the win over Marshall in overtime, 91-82. So a win for the opponent doesn't do anything for the Herd. Then you look at Troy. Well, again, that's one that's a sticking point for a lot of people because that was a game that Marshall coulda, shoulda, woulda won, and Marshall didn't get the win there. So lost to the Trojans by 1, 58-57. And that's one of those just got away from the Thundering Herd. So a lot of things are going to have to shake out here for Marshall to get into that 4 spot. But I think Marshall's good playing in the 5 spot. That's where I think it's going to end up. Playing in the 5 spot, that means you got 4 days. Okay, if you got 4 days of basketball. Starting 4 days out instead of 2 days out, is that much harder? Maybe not. You're going to have teams that start 7 days out or 7 games out. How's that? Got 7 to win if you're starting from the bottom. Marshall, you got 4 to win. If you're James Madison, you've got 2 to win. Sure, would you like to be James Madison, win the league title regular season and then sit and wait? Or are you good with Marshall, got a couple of games before you face off against possibly a James Madison? You feel good about maybe you get a run going? Now, the same thing could happen. Some of those teams that are coming up before Marshall could also get hot. How much is rust going to matter in this tournament format, which I'm absolutely excited to see. You got to win. You want to get to the championship, you got to go through everyone. If you start out from the bottom and you get hot and you win the championship, absolutely. You earned your bid to the NCAA tournament. If you're a team like James Madison and you've secured a path that's a lot easier, you should win. If you're one of those top 2, top 3, top 4 seeds, you should feel like, okay, you got a legitimate shot. And then, of course, with Marshall possibly starting at 5, I still think Marshall has an opportunity here. You can get hot. You can absolutely be a team that starts a couple of days sooner than the top teams and still have enough in you to make that run. So it's going to be rust versus rest. What's going to be the deciding factor here? Very top loaded right now in the league. So that's going to be fun. And then on the women's side, standings-wise, last night the Herd gets the win, right? So now, where are we at here with the women? And this one's interesting because right now, it looks like Marshall could work its way up. Marshall's in that bottom 4, for lack of a better term. Texas State and Marshall, 6-11. Texas State, I wish we could just get this thing seeded right now. I'm curious to see. But Texas State beat Marshall. That was earlier in the season. That was right before the new year. It was a 60-49 victory for Texas State. So, head-to-head, Texas State's got the advantage. But then you got ULM at 7-10. So you look at ULM, and ULM has James Madison. James Madison's undefeated in conference play. James Madison's not losing to ULM. And what makes this interesting is, that was the opponent for Marshall yesterday. Marshall beating ULM 73-65, beating a team that it needed to beat in the standings. And so now Marshall could work its way up into another day. And then you have Georgia State. Look at Georgia State. Georgia State also at 7-10. And you look at Georgia State's record, and you see that Georgia State lost to Marshall most recently, 70-59. So what could happen here? You could see, and here's the kicker here. If Marshall stays at 11, Marshall plays on the first day. If Marshall gets to 10th, Marshall plays the following day. There's a possibility that Marshall could, by virtue of having wins over ULM and Georgia State, Marshall could work its way into one of those spots. So Marshall could start on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, depending on what happens the rest of the way, and that's coming up on Friday. So we'll know after midnight. That's probably going to be the one thing that's for certain, is we'll know sometime after midnight what all the seeding looks like. It's fun to talk about this. Of course, after the seeds are announced, we'll know more about what it's going to take for each team to win the championship, get that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Does Julie Folks have this team starting to peak at the right time, starting to put it all together? Is Coach Jackson got this team revving up, ready to go for a run, get this last game on national TV, and then make that run in the tournament? There's a distinct possibility here that both teams could either be poised for a run or, depending on the outcome, have a little bit more of a struggle. I think for the men, it's obviously going to be an easier trip to the championship game. For the women, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but how much more difficult based on looking at the standings? So we don't know anything until the games are played. And so coming up tomorrow, first off, it's going to be the women taking on Georgia State. With Marshall now 11-18 and 6-11 in league play, Marshall has an opportunity to improve to 7-11. And with a few losses, Marshall could work its way up. And then, of course, the men, as we outlined, Thundering Herd getting ready to take on App State, could move up. There's a slim possibility. I'm going to say that the Herd's locked in at 5th. And that's not taking anything away. Marshall will win against App State. I'm pretty confident in that. Find out if that holds on tomorrow's postgame. But after that, Marshall will be ready for the tournament. If Marshall gets a win against App State, I don't care if Marshall's 5th or 4th. I think Marshall will be set for a run. Maybe in that sweet spot, not too much rest, not too much rust, just the right amount, sort of more of a normal cadence into getting ready for the next set of games. And we'll see what this format does. And wouldn't it be something if the women could make a run from earlier on? And wouldn't it be something that Marshall, right there, maybe that sweet spot, can make that run and win the championship? So anything's still possible for the Thundering Herd. We'll get your text, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Don't forget, we've got a 4-pack of tickets for you. That's coming up tomorrow. You got to pick them up tomorrow. And don't forget, there's a lot going on, and we're going to run all of it down for you when we continue. But our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop for my 4-pack of tickets. They're in my desk right now as we speak. We'll get them out. I'll get them ready for you. 304-396-TALK. What do you think? Marshall got a shot at this? 4 games in the tournament, potentially 3, but 4 games. Can Marshall make its run? And then you feel good about the women right now, starting to put it together as of late, starting to kind of feel like got a shot in this women's tournament, and Marshall could improve its standing with a couple of things happening for the Thundering Herd. Anything is possible. What do you think? Herd got a chance to win on the women's side, make it back-to-back tournament champions? We'll find out, obviously, tomorrow, but it all starts when we come back from break here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
At Poca Valley Bank, a handshake can still mean the start of a great relationship. We've been greeting customers with a handshake since 1908. Why settle for less? If you're purchasing your first home or planning for your future, Poca Valley Bank is here to support you with personalized service and local expertise. They are your trusted advisors. Why settle for less when you can experience banking with a team that truly cares? Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Visit PocaValleyBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey Tri-State, Frank's Place is where friends hang out with friends. Stop on by for happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. and a lot of daily specials. If you're a sports fan, we have what you want. From the biggest game in professional football, NBA, NCAA basketball, and the NHL. First responders, stop by Frank's Place and check out the specials we have for you. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check us out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away away from home.
Stalwart Insurance is the name for insurance in the tri-state. They are committed to delivering tailored benefit solutions with thoughtful, strategic planning with valuable professional services. Stop by or call Stalwart Insurance for your homeowner's insurance needs. Stalwart Insurance is located right beside Kenny Queen Hardware on Route 10 in Barbersville. Call Stalwart Insurance anytime at 304-552-3883. That's 304-552-3883. Or visit them online at stalwartinsurance.com.
Chris Miller, CEO of the Dutch Miller Auto Group, and Mike Kurtner, CEO of Kindred Communications, on behalf of Flood Relief for Southern West Virginia.
Chris, I'm from Chatteroy, West Virginia. Yeah, a little holler that's close to Williamson. I have friends that need help. Exactly what can we do?
Mike, the flooding is devastating. In particular, Mingo, McDowell, Lincoln, Wayne, and Boone counties were hit really hard. We need food, clothing, supplies, anything that can produce energy, from generators to liquid propane tanks, socks, shoes, you name it. People need help down there.
Chris, one of the nice things about what's going to happen here is this relief will go to the people that we know, and they need you now. 100% of what you give will go to flood relief in Southern West Virginia.
These people need food, water, clothing, supplies, cleaning materials, anything that can provide power, you name it. And this is the best thing about West Virginians is when the stuff happens, we get together, we rally around each other, and we help. And that's exactly what we're here doing, Mike.
Make your donation now. Go online to kindredcharities.org or visit any Dutch Miller Auto Group location. Our friends need your help now.
I'm Nori, and when I was young, my mom opened our home to someone who needed a secure and safe place. She taught him what it was like to have someone care about you, having dinner at home or going out to eat together.
In West Virginia, families open their homes every year to adult family care.
Some folks need a little extra help, but everybody deserves a family.
Call the Department of Human Services and ask to speak to an adult family care home finder at 304-269-6820. Sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Human Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station. This project is supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, of the United States, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $1,227,345, with 100% funded by ACL HHS. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by ACL HHS or the U.S. government.
Hey, is that a faucet running?
Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep, but the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm also giving you a chance to win 4-pack of tickets to go see the Herd take on App State. That's coming up tomorrow. We go on the air at 8 o'clock. It's going to be a 9 o'clock tip. For those of you who can't make it, we got you covered on the radio. Of course, if you win my tickets, you obviously can make it. So we'll pull some strings for you here. They're pretty good tickets, actually. Let's go to the text line. Let's start making some winners here. First up, texter says, Paul, not only is the Herd going to win tomorrow night, they will get hot and win the Sun Belt Tournament. We are going dancing. Go Herd. I'm just going to presume that you're talking about both teams, both the men and the women are going to go dancing. I'm just going to go ahead and say that for you. We're talking about Marshall getting the win tomorrow against Georgia State, and then we're going to talk about the men getting the win over App State. There's a lot going on tomorrow, so let's hope all the Herd teams get hot. And, of course, softball's taking on – softball's in Oklahoma, by the way. And The number one team in the country is also in Oklahoma, and that is Oklahoma. And so softball tomorrow's got Kansas at 12 p.m., and then it's going to be number one Oklahoma at 2:45 p.m. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that one from afar. And then baseball, taking on Fairleigh Dickinson University. That's going to be 3 p.m. That's the home opener for the Thundering Herd. Fairleigh Dickinson is 0-7. Marshall now 2-6. All of those games on the road. So Marshall's got 2 road wins. Real close to breaking last year's win-loss record on the road. Marshall could actually, if things go well, double that, triple that. There's an opportunity here. But Marshall gets to open up the home series against FDU tomorrow, and that's going to be right here broadcast on ESPN 94.1 at AM 930. So what we're going to do, just give you an idea of what you can expect, is we're going to have the opening series on the radio, and then we're going to have every Saturday home game. We'll also have the WVU game as well, the home game. And so we're going to have 10 games. Hopefully the Herd can make postseason, and I anticipate we'll have those as well. But we've got our Saturday showcase coming up, and that starts this weekend. But we'll have the home series for you this weekend, starting with FDU. Marshall baseball back at the Jack. So I'm looking forward to all of that. But busy day for Herd Athletics. And then, of course, as we alluded to, we've got the women's game. Women doing themselves a real strong, solid last night, beating ULM 73-65. So the women are now 11-18, 6-11 in Sun Belt play. Madison Callione reached the 1,500 point milestone, so congratulations for her. So these seniors are going to be honored, I'm sure, tomorrow, both for the men and the women. And then, of course, with the Herd beating App State last week, and Marshall do it again. Texter says, yes, Marshall's going to get hot. Marshall's going to win the tournament. I'd like to see Marshall win in convincing fashion. I would actually take 15, 20-point win. Is that going to happen? I don't know. But that's what I would love to see. I would love to see Marshall do better than what it did on the road. And I want to see Marshall go into the halftime with a lead. That's the first thing I want to see. Go into halftime with the lead against App State. You didn't do that before, so go in, have that, and then come out in that second half and start taking over the game. Same thing you did against Old Dominion. You took a 1-point lead into halftime, and then you came out and you dominated the game. So do that again against App State. I'll feel real good about Marshall's chances of getting even hotter at the tournament. And, of course, the thing about the tournament is there's going to be a mismatch somewhere across the bracket. Just because your standings are a little low, you might be a problem matchup for a team. So some upsets, I'm sure, will happen in this tournament. And with Marshall possibly coming from the 5 spot, if Marshall can win its initial game, then the rest of the way, Marshall's pulling upsets, at least in bracket seeding. That's what we're hoping for here on the men's side. And, of course, with the women coming from where the women will be coming from, unless Marshall is working its way out of that first day, Marshall's going to be the lower seed in every game. And that's the big trick here. Can Marshall work its way up on the women's side to one of those higher bracket seeds? And then it becomes a matter of, okay, Marshall doesn't have to start Tuesday, doesn't have to start Wednesday even, and could work its way to possibly a Thursday showing. And really, it sets up for that. With ULM losing, Marshall got the win. And then with Georgia State possibly losing, it's going to set up for Marshall to move on up. That's what's going to happen. And here's the thing. If Marshall gets that win against Georgia State, and then you see ULM losing, Marshall's going to go up. And I feel good about that. So a lot on the line for that women's game tomorrow, and you better get your tickets now if you haven't got them already. 6 p.m. is going to be tip time. And then we'll follow that up with the men. We'll go on the air at 8 o'clock with our pregame coverage. We're going to hope that Marshall puts away Fairleigh Dickinson early because that game starts at 3. We'll have both those games, as a reminder, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line's still open. If you want a shot at winning those tickets to go see the Herd take on Appalachian State. If you don't know what to do by now, let me tell you one more time. You got to text the win. 304-396-TALK. More coming up on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Now is the time to add on a new bathroom or remodel your old one with the latest up-to-date bathroom fixtures from Mutual Wholesalers, 710 5th Street, Huntington. Come in today to Mutual Wholesalers' beautiful showroom and see how your new bathroom will look. Check out Acre by Max. Have a new bathroom this year. Mutual Wholesalers, locally owned and operated, 710 5th Street, Huntington. Call 304-525-9118.
You've cut back on everything and you're still coming up short at the end of the month. Give your local State Farm agent a call for a free discount double check. They'll show you how something as simple as combining car and home policies can save you hundreds of dollars a year. Being there to help keep more of your money is why your local State Farm agent is here. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
In Huntington, John Garden, 304-525-1116. And in Barbersville, Marcia Slater, 304-736-6100.
Charleston, the wait is over. Hand drying is back. Exclusively at Thoroughbred Express, downtown Charleston. They're bringing back that spotless shine with a personal touch of a hand-dried finish. Want to keep your ride looking flawless all year? A Thoroughbred Express Unlimited membership has you covered. Rain, snow, mud, salt, they've got your back with premium amenities, top-notch service, and the clean car you deserve. Join the winner's circle with Thoroughbred Express. Visit them downtown today.
Get ready to hit the road with Gomart. Each month we're featuring a special item to fuel your journey and score you bonus reward points in our Road to Rewards promotion. Each purchase earns you a token, so load up and keep cruising toward big rewards. Plus, the top 25 token earners each month will receive 5,000 additional bonus reward points. Check the Gomart app to see this month's featured item, and as always, earn additional savings on products store-wide with reward member exclusives. Go to Gomart.com for more details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Yeah, happy to be here. Can I get some rotors?
Would you like brake pads with that?
How much are the brake pads?
Free with the rotors.
Free. Really?
Really, free.
Okay, I also need some oil.
Would you like an oil filter with that?
Yeah, how much is that?
Free with 5 quarts of oil.
Free? Really?
Really, free. It's part of the A to Z savings event.
You might as well call it A to free.
At AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash, and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother was saying he got life insurance from Ethos. With Ethos, it only took 10 minutes, and he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online. No medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
Sup?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay, Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The Forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our text line this hour, 304-396-TALK, brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We got a busy day tomorrow. A lot of action going on, and I want to get back to that in just a few minutes, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about something that I found out about, and it's still under investigation. And it's strange how the circumstances kind of point to, I don't know how to describe it, but for those of you who have been following the news, and if you didn't know this, Gene Hackman was found dead at age 95. Now, it's suspicious. Not sure if there's any foul play involved or not. It's very suspicious because his wife was found dead with him, and looking at some of the reports, it appears that this has been at least several days. So that stuff will come out. But Gene Hackman, he's been in some really good movies. And, of course, he was also in something like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which not a good movie. But I think a lot of people remember him for being the coach in Hoosiers. Coach Norman Dale. Now, be honest with me. Hoosiers came out in 1986, so it's a movie that I went to see. I've seen it. It was on HBO, I'm sure, as well. It was a movie that was prominent when I was still in high school, actually, I believe. And so, for those of you that have seen Hoosiers, How prominent was that movie for you and Gene Hackman? How influential was that movie? Because it told the story. Hey, the little guy can come in and win the championship. The little guy can do it. And I know there's sort of a tug and war between, the basketball state being Kentucky or Indiana, and I'm sure depending on whoever you ask, Indiana's the Hoosier state. Indiana's the basketball state. No, Kentucky's the basketball state. But just how influential was that movie for you? If you look at his entire filmography, he was in some really amazing movies. And, of course, he was in some fun movies as well. Don't forget he was in The Quick and the Dead. That's a fun Western. He was in Unforgiven. That's a tremendous Western. He was in Superman. He set the standard for Lex Luthor in the Superman series. He was even in Reds. You remember that movie? Bridge Too Far. That's a great movie right there. Also, the French Connection 2. Poseidon Adventure, for those of you. I know I'm going back a little bit, but for me, a lot of these movies are really relevant because, it's Gene Hackman. But for sports fans, you got to circle back to Hoosiers. One of the all-time great sports movies. And if you haven't seen Hoosiers, I hate to encourage you after some tragedy, but I think you need to go see Hoosiers and understand sometimes what we're talking about here. One of the best sports movies ever made. So Gene Hackman, unfortunately, dead at the age of 95. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to get back to the text line, 304-396-TALK. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. Texter says right now, Paul, I had written off the Herd men due to their inconsistencies, but I got back up. I like their chances in the tournament, but I won't be at the game as I'm going to the baseball game tomorrow afternoon. However, and to whomever it applies, go Herd. Hope I emphasized that right. I think a lot of people wrote off the Thundering Herd, especially the start of that road trip. Now, it wasn't 4 straight games, game. Marshall had a few days in between, road trips. But Marshall had to go back on the road for 2 weeks. And it started out, I didn't like the way the Herd played. I don't think anyone liked the way the Herd played. I don't think Coach Jackson liked the way the Herd played. And then these last few games, Marshall got a couple games on the road. At one point, Marshall had not won a road game in a calendar year. So Marshall gets the win, and then Marshall wins another one, and all of a sudden, Marshall starting to get hot. Then Herd comes back home, gets it done again, and now one more to go. Now, the unique part of this schedule is, of course, it's App State. You just faced App State. You got to do it again. And it's not going to be easy, but it's also App State. This should be one of the rivals that you get excited for. And I say that easily because it's one of the rivals that I get excited for because it goes back to the Southern Conference today. So I get excited for App State. I'm really getting excited for James Madison because I don't know too many Herd fans that dislike those guys right now. So James Madison, obviously one of those teams, but I don't need too much motivation to get ready for App State because it's App State. And I think that the team's learning that a little bit more. Younger fans are starting to learn that a little bit more, that it doesn't matter that there was a gap in between when these two teams played, football and basketball, that App State's going to be one of those teams that you circle. For me also, it's Georgia Southern. But this is App State. Marshall and App State going at it. Yeah, you should be excited about this. This is not maybe the rivalry, but it's a really good rivalry here, and especially with that history going back to the Southern Conference days. So I can see that. A lot of people maybe have written off the Thundering Herd. Will a loss tomorrow dampen your spirits for the Thundering Herd? The good news is Marshall won't falter in the standings. The bad news is you're going into the tournament with a loss. Could that add some extra motivation? You didn't finish the season the way you wanted to at home. You didn't finish strong. So you go in with a little renewed energy that, okay, we can't do that again. Or do you need to have a 4-game win streak to go into the tournament with momentum and with that energy that, yeah, we've put together a string of wins here. Let's keep that going. And we're in a situation where we don't have to wait too long. And it feels like it might be just right in the cadence. Just about. But it's tournament time. You got to get excited. But the Herd's got to get it done, taking on App State. And that's coming up tomorrow. We'll have the game for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Herd getting set to take on App State. Herd getting set to take on Georgia State. Herd getting set to take on Fairleigh Dickinson, Kansas, number 1 Oklahoma. It's all happening tomorrow, and we'll talk about it more when we continue, including your text on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Metro Community Federal Credit Union has been serving the Huntington community for 70 years and is proud to announce our newest location in Lavallette is now open. Wayne County residents, you now have access to a modern banking facility, a full range of services, advanced technology, expert financial advice, and even a smart coffee kiosk cafe. Learn more about Metro Community Federal Credit Union online at metrocommunityfcu.com or visit us today on 5th Street Road.
Equal housing lender, member NCUA.
Hey Tri-State, Frank's Place is where friends hang out with friends. Stop on by for happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. and a lot of daily specials. If you're a sports fan, we have what you want. From the biggest game in professional football, NBA, NCAA basketball, and the NHL. First responders, stop by Frank's Place and check out the specials we have for you. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check us out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away away from home.
Stalwart Insurance is the name for insurance in the tri-state. They are committed to delivering tailored benefit solutions with thoughtful, strategic planning with valuable professional services. Stop by or call Stalwart Insurance for your homeowner's insurance needs. Stalwart Insurance is located right beside Kitty Queen Hardware on Route 10 in Barbersville. Call Stalwart Insurance anytime at 304-552-3883. That's 304-552-3883. Or visit them online at stalwartinsurance.com.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night.
Perfect. I love my job.
Oak tree?
Sup?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
Final segment for today's edition of The Drive. We don't have a show tomorrow. We got Marshall baseball coming up. The Herd, 3 o'clock, going to take on Fairleigh Dickinson at the Jack. It's the opening game for the Herd at home. And we'll have that series this weekend right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So for the rest of the show, open text lines, and again, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. A couple people texting in about Gene Hackman. First up, texter says, how dare I forget that Gene Hackman was in The Hunt for Red October. Was that it? Was he? Yeah, that's right, wasn't it? No, it was Crimson Tide. I think you're wrong. I think it was Crimson Tide that he was in. Not that I have not watched both movies, but it's Crimson Tide. Go back and watch that. That's a good submarine movie. It's not The Hunt for Red October, but he was in Crimson Tide. He was also in, remember Get Shorty? That's a good movie. And he was in Wyatt Earp. I like that one. I mentioned that one. That's one of my favorite movies. He was in a lot of movies. You know one that I don't think some of you probably have mentioned? I remember it because it was the year 2000, and it was a date movie, so I remember it. It was The Replacements. You don't remember The Replacements, do you? And in Hoosiers, of course, Gene played a basketball coach, Norman Dale. In The Replacements, Gene played the coach of a football team. And so the premise here was the league players were on strike. And so they had to go get replacement players. So basically players crossing the line, bunch of scabs, I'm sure you're yelling, right? So the whole idea was, all right, let's get these replacement players, and we'll start the league and start the season without these guys and this contract dispute. And, of course, in that movie, you've got Hackman lending his personality and just everything that comes with Hackman. And then, of course, the star of the movie, Keanu Reeves. He was the quarterback. Real stretch for him in that role. So he was a quarterback for the replacements. And it had some interesting people in that movie. I had to pull it up a little bit. But Jon Favreau was in that movie. I didn't remember that. So again, I haven't seen this movie since 2000, maybe 2001. So Jon Favreau was in that movie. Orlando Jones. Remember Orlando Jones? So he was in that movie. And John Madden was even in the movie, believe it or not. I did not remember that. John Madden in that movie. So if you're looking for a fun football movie, go back to the archives. The Replacements. Back to the text line. Texture says, Paul, Gene Hackman, Unforgiven, and Mississippi Burning. Oh, yeah. That's an excellent one. Thank you for that. Appreciate the text. Of course, Unforgiven, probably one of the best Westerns, one of the best. Now, if you're ever going to get into a conversation with me that's completely not sports related, we could talk about Westerns a lot. And I contend that the greatest Western of all time is Rio Bravo with John Wayne. It also has Angie Dickinson in that movie. Dean Martin was in that movie. There's a host of others. That's one of my favorite Westerns. But Unforgiven, an excellent movie with Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman in that movie as well. I mean, you had to have an excellent villain, and that's what Gene Hackman was. And, of course, Mississippi Burning, that movie came out in 1988. It was like a string of really good movies for Gene Hackman. And that movie had William Dafoe in it as well. And, of course, Brad Dourif was in that movie. Tell me why Brad Dourif is important. R. Lee Emery was in that movie as well. But Brad Dourif, tell me why that's important. Back to the text line. Texter says, Paul, the Old Dominion basketball game was a good example of how the game can come to certain key players like it did for Obina and Nate late in the second half. Good win. Absolutely. It did come. And you know the thing is about that game for me was you look at it, and Obina had 18 points in that game. Nate had 12. And you got good minutes from that. Obina, of course, almost a double-double there. Had 8 rebounds. Had 2 blocks. I can't say anything under 3 with Obina. He had 2 blocks. He had 3 steals, but he had 2 blocks. And so he's out there 23 minutes. He got good minutes, I think. I think Coach Jackson did a nice job of making sure the right guys were out on the court at the right time. And you're right. I think the game did probably come to him a little bit more. Dzane Mingo looked good in that game as well. And so hopefully the Herd can see some guys have the game come to them. Obina had 3 blocks in that game against App State last week. Maybe he can do it again. I like to see Obina finish strong at home. Maybe a double-double, maybe a block, or 4 or 5. He's going to have a good game, I think. Marshall wants to win this tomorrow. I think you're going to have to get the usual suspects. But remember, in that game last week, you got points from Jalen, Nate, and Dzane Mingo. Michael Dawson, point-wise, was not a factor, but I don't think that that's really an indicator of what he did. And Obina, not a factor point-wise, but also I don't think that's really an indicator because more defensively they were contributing than they were offensively. But I hope to see Obina maybe find his game. It'd be nice to see the guys that are going to be walking the last time on the court get their best performance in a long time in front of the home fans before they head off to the tournament. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Just a few minutes remain on this edition of the show. Texture says, Gene Hackman, Bat 21. Okay, I got to go back a ways on that one. I remember watching that. That's a good movie. I'm going to see now. I'm going to have to go watch Gene Hackman movies. There's a lot of them. If you look at his filmography, you think about that. He was in a lot of good movies a long period. But Bat 21, if I remember that, it had Jerry Reed in it. I'm a big Jerry Reed fan back from the Smokey and the Bandit days. And it also had Danny Glover. And I like Danny Glover. So right there, you got me with the cast. I don't think I've seen this movie in, when did it come out? 1988. I don't think I've seen it since 1989 maybe. But this is a movie where it's a military movie. And you have an aircraft shot over enemy territory. And so he's got to work out a escape route. And that's Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman, outstanding in that movie, if I remember now. So he's a weapons expert. I got to look this up because I'm remembering it a little bit more. So he's obviously a high-value target. And so the Air Force wants him back. So he's working with Danny Glover to kind of work there because he knows the area. Because Gene Hackman's character, he knows about the region area, so he can map his way out there. And they based it on, and here's the thing that makes it interesting for sports fans. They based it on golf courses. Because if you're a golfer and you've played several courses time and time again, you know that course. And so the escape route was based on, okay, because you can't code transmissions. You're in the field here, so you've got open transmissions, but you're basing it off something the enemy wouldn't know, and that was golf courses. So I haven't seen that. Yeah, I remember that now, but I haven't seen that movie since probably a year or so after it came out. So that was 1988. Check that one out as well. There's a lot of good movies that Gene Hackman was in, and he retired. I think he retired at a good point in his career, because you see actors sometimes that you really are fans of and you're fond of, and his last movie, if I'm right, was in 2004. I mean, he was in Behind Enemy Lines. Now, you remember Behind Enemy Lines, and that's kind of one of those similar movies to Bat 21. Like, you got somebody that's behind enemy lines, obviously. That's kind of a play there. That's going to do it for this edition. We are out of time. I could talk Gene Hackman all day and movies with you all day, but we got sports tomorrow, full day. Of course, the Herd women playing a little softball in Oklahoma tomorrow, and then the men are playing at the Jack. Fairleigh Dickinson University, 3 o'clock is going to be first pitch. We'll have that game for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And then basketball action, we will wrap it up with the men taking on App State. We go on the air at 8 o'clock tomorrow, and then we'll find out when and what seed the Herd, both men and women, will have for the tournament. Until then, have a great night, everyone.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.